Welcome to Map It Marketing for small business owners who want to become more confident and capable in their marketing. I'm Rachel Klaver, and I'm a small business owner, just like you. I've learnt that there are so many different things that we are supposed to do all the time. And trying to work it all out is, quite frankly, often very confusing. In this podcast, we're going to explore what those things are and whether you need to pay attention to them. Ready? Let's get started. Hello there, and thank you so much for tuning in today to Map It Marketing. It's me today. I don't have a guest, and I'm going to talk to you about my favorite saying, or one of my favorite sayings. Am I allowed to have a favorite saying that I've made myself? I don't know. Anyway, if it is, it's how to be a goat in a tree. And I promise you I'll explain it in a bit more depth during the podcast. But before we start, I would love to invite you to one of my very favorite parts of the internet. It's our Facebook group called Map It Marketing. The business owners in there are amazing. It's a beautiful, welcoming place where you can ask questions, get support, and share about your business and your hopes and your dreams for what you want to do in your work. So please come along and enjoy it. And before that happens, do enjoy this episode. There's a little bit at the end to explain how to best apply it to your business. And I'm looking forward to seeing your posts. At me in them. You can at me at Identify Marketing or at Rachel Klaver, and I will see the posts that you've tried from this episode and give you a little bit of a cheer along. So settle in, listen to the podcast, and get learning. Hello there. I thought we'd start today with me painting you a wee picture because I want to explain what being a goat in a tree is all about, and then we can work out how to do that for your business. So let's start with a goat that's in a tree. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen these goats before, but if you Google goat in a tree, you'll be able to see these for yourself. These are weird goats in Morocco. And what they do is it's very hot there and there's not many places for shelter. I think this is why they do it. And so these goats, what they do is they get up and they climb the trunk and go and stand in branches. And there's images all over the internet of these amazing goats standing in these trees looking out. Now, when I was researching this, I got a little bit devastated to discover that some farmers actually during peak tourist seasons will lift the goats into the trees. But these goats, trust me, used to go there by themselves. That's how we got the whole idea of the goats in the trees. Now, those goats aren't going, hey, you know what? Today I'm going to be world famous and I'm going to go and climb in a tree so people stare at me and take my photo. In fact, I'm pretty sure those goats are really uncomfortable with people staring at them. They're like, hey, listen, lady, all I'm doing is trying to get out of the sun. But those goats are magical to me. I think they are the coolest thing ever. And that's you. That's you and your business. I ran a webinar series and event series earlier in the year called Social Media for Boring Businesses. And some people were like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you've said that a business is boring. And a couple of people said, hey, I'm not coming to that because you're telling me my business is boring and I'm deeply offended. But the reason that I called it boring businesses is that so many business owners today are so bored with what they can talk about their business. And they're like, what's exciting about us? There's nothing interesting to talk about with us. Now that's because they're goats in a tree. They're just going about their everyday life. They don't realize that all of us think all the normal everyday life stuff they do is super cool. They just think it's goat in a tree stuff. You are truly a goat in a tree. You're just going up that tree, looking out, looking around everywhere, and you're going, it's a normal day. And we're going, how'd they get up the tree? What are they looking at? Why are they doing that and acting so gracefully? We need to know. How do you do that? Well, you need to think about content that is about your everyday business. And I'm not talking about that annual Christmas dinner one that you do or winning an award. Those things are fine, a little bit, they don't really help that engagement. You need things that are ongoing that are going to help you do that. So I want to walk you through a few of these, and I'm going to put them in the show notes as well. I've actually got a column that I can also add as a link that will also help that. I use this myself in the way that we create our content. So whatever I'm teaching you today is definitely stuff we do. And I can attest it works super, super well for boring businesses like mine that are service-run businesses, but it can also work for non-boring businesses. Like if you're an e-commerce business or you sell stuff I want to buy, then you're not obviously a boring business to me. But this framework works really well. So we'll go through it. The first one is thinking about frequently asked questions. So I've been recently focusing on frequently asked questions because I tell people the importance of having a frequently asked questions page on their website, but I've never had one myself. So recently I went and actually finished one of those, which has made me feel very virtuous. But what I've done is I've got 14 of those questions, and I have now turned all of those into social media posts. And what's beneficial about this is every time I post one of those, I'm allowing an objection to go away. So I might have something like, why do we always start with marketing strategy? You might have something like, how often will we need to see you? Or how often should my teeth be cleaned? Or what would be the desired frequency to get your hair cut? Or something like that, that are questions that you know people might want to know, and you answer them in depth with interest and help people do that with a small call to action afterwards if they need that. Now, those frequently asked questions, you write them really well once, and then you can just repeat them. So say you've got 8 or 10 of them, you can have one go out once a week. And then when you get to number 10, you can just start again from number 1 again. And you've magically got weekly content that's just repeated because different people will see it at different times. And that's going to work for you as social media content that's really interesting and is a goat in a tree moment. Once you're doing that, you can also think about your goat in the tree wisdom. This is all the stuff that you know, that's insider knowledge, that is easy for you, that you just take for granted, but that no one else understands or gets. I'll give you an example. I was working with a client recently. They have an amazing kitchenware store, Millie's in Auckland. If you are in Auckland or in New Zealand, I absolutely love that store. And we were talking about cast iron pans. And I bought one last year during lockdown, like everyone else. I was making the no knead bread in it. And I said to Liz, look, I don't understand. What does this whole seasoning of a cast iron pot mean? Like, what does that mean and what does that look like? And she's like, well, everyone knows that. It's basic. And I was like, I don't know. I literally don't understand that, because she's a cook and she works in cookware all the time. So for her, it's just natural. For me, I have no idea. She was talking about one-pan meals. I'm like, I'd love to try that, but I have no idea how they work. Easy. Not for me, they're not. You know, any service-based something like changing a tire, knowing when to replace the oil, all those different things that you just take for granted that can help me, builds trust with me, gets me excited about things, and makes me want to engage with you. We're all talking about things that can help people build trust, can build a relationship with you, and know that you're the person that's going to be their go-to when they're ready to buy from you. So sharing your goat in the tree wisdom is really important. It helps people understand that you're interested in them as a person and not just as a person that's going to come buy from them at some stage. And it gives them a reason to come back and read them more. So they're also really good. The next sort of thing you can do in your goat in the tree life is to give a bit of a peek behind the scenes. So if you were like a normal goat in a tree, your behind the scenes thing might be showing the farmer picking you up and putting you on that tree. Maybe that would be a bit of a joy lever for all of us. But having that thing around that peek behind the scenes is an amazing way to show people a little bit of insight about how you do things. So like I've seen really cool ones like this, like boxing things up ready to send, getting the courier packages ready. I did one recently was showing, you know, how I write my content. So I do a lot of it on pen and paper. So I did like a little video of that and talked about it and worked it through. Doing bloopers of my videos. So you can show all those little bits of behind the scenes of how you do things, helps people get a glimpse into what it might be like to work with you and to see the work that's involved in doing things. Like I would love to see a behind the scenes of mixing the colors if someone was doing hairdressing, or perhaps showing how you order your tradie bags if you're going out on a job, or, you know, the safety stuff you have to do, or all those sort of things. They're fascinating goat in a tree moments that make things interesting. There are heaps of different other things that you can do. You can talk about your team and those sort of things. But those three behind the scenes, the frequently asked questions, and sharing those tips and tricks, wisdom with people are the most powerful things that you can do to help your social media engagement grow and for people to be interested in you. All you've got to do is remember you're a goat in a tree. And people want to know about goats and trees because they're kind of magic. So just be one. It's been lovely talking to you today. And at the end of this, there's going to be a little bit of help and action points for you to take. Otherwise, just remember that there's show notes that you can also listen to and watch.
I really love learning, but I hate wasting time and I hate thinking of you wasting your time. So I hope that from today, after you've learned how to be a goat in a tree, you go and apply it. To make it easier, in the show notes, there is a link to my stuff.co.nz blog about how to be a goat in a tree. There's also a link to a workbook. You don't have to give us your email address or anything. You can just get it from the link where you can brainstorm some ideas and content ideas. And I'd love you to come and join our Facebook group, Map It Marketing, where you can ask questions and try things out. As I mentioned in the podcast on episode 16, there is going to be a podcast all around creating great captions for social media, which will help you once you've brainstormed to write really great captions. So please listen to that. That's in 6 weeks' time. I'm sorry, it's a long time, but there's all these cool guests in between. And speaking of guests, Sarah Primrose is coming along next week to talk to us about how she moved from selling in markets to being a business that now wholesales to a whole bunch of retail stores and talking about the marketing that she's had to do. It's such a great listen. I would love it if you're enjoying these podcasts to consider coming along to our Map It Express events. They are a 3-hour-long webinar, fully packed with a workbook and everything to help you on your marketing journey. We go through how to create a marketing plan. We show you how all your marketing fits together, and it's a great way for you to invest some time in your business. We've got one in July and one in August. They're completely free. There's links for them in the show notes. I'd love to see you there. And meanwhile, you go and be a goat in a tree and tell everyone else how cool you are as that goat sitting in a tree. Look forward to talking to you next week. Thanks for tuning in today to Map It Marketing with me, Rachel Klaver. Make sure you hit subscribe in your podcast app so you don't miss an episode. And if you want notes or information about today's podcast, go to rachelklaver.com/podcast for more information.